And Kenny Callender has a tip for Melbourne Race 7, and it is Strip the Moon. To the Shield scores, and
who's really got the wind in his sails. Here's John Tapp. But John, if there is any wind out there, it's pretty hot, I believe.
Max, there's no wind, almost a dead calm, and conditions are very, very oppressive. The racehorses are sweating, and so are the punters, and a few punters are hot under the collar to boot, I can tell you, because some of them are hemorrhaging from the kick rather severely. Well, this race in Melbourne is called the Francis Tressady Stakes, and it's named after a great filly who raced in Melbourne around about the turn of the century. And there's an interesting runner called Strip the Moon, which was sired by a horse called Paint the Stars. Robert Holmes à Court made the headlines in 1980 when he paid $850,000 for Paint the Stars. And Ken, the horse turned out to be an absolute dromedary.
John, I hope this filly goes, or this mare goes better than the dad, because I've got my money on Strip the Moon, particularly with Natural Wonder a late scratching. From the top, the prices, and these are approximate, as I say, they vary from state to state. Memphis Blues is at 12 to 1. Natural Wonder is a late scratching, as I told you. Strip the Moon at 2. Diamond Zephyr well backed at 7 to 2. Jumeirah at 5 to 1. Hot Set 12. Dalmatinska, hard to get your mouth around, that is 40 to 1. Another trip at 50 to 1. The Honest Mare Thelma Josephine to be ridden by Neville Wilson is a 14 to 1 chance. Cara's Magic at 20 to 1. Beau Sin the same price. Harry White is riding her. Oh Deputy about a 10 to 1 shot. Love and Run at 25 to 1. Sheerman at 100 to 1. Favoured Sin at 200 to 1. And Miss Nora Lee at 50 to 1. Pemelina is an emergency who never got a run. John, they're running a little bit late in Melbourne. I don't know if they've actually moved into the barriers yet.
No, Ken, they're milling around behind the line. We'll take you to John Russell very shortly. You know, there is nobody quite like a racing man to pick you up on a small error. My great friend and colleague Des Hoysted, one of Australia's best-known race callers, was walking past the commentary box and heard me say that Francis Tressady, after whom this race is named, raced in Melbourne around about the turn of the century. Now, Des was very quick to kick the door down to inform me that she did, in fact, race in the early and mid-20s. Des, I humbly apologise. I didn't realise you were that old. Yes, he might have even called the race, I'm not sure. So Francis Tressady, Des tells me, won the Victorian Derby in about 1922. All right, well, there are the fillies milling around behind the line. They're mares, actually, 4-year-olds and upwards. And Strip the Moon is the interesting runner. That's the one Ken was talking about. A daughter of Paint the Stars, who, despite his mammoth purchase price as a yearling around about 1980, turned out to be an absolute duffer on the race course. He only had 2 or 3 starts. I think the closest he finished was about 17th. And he had a premature retirement to a small stud farm at a place called Euroa in Victoria. If memory serves me rightly, he went to stud so unheralded and so unsung that in his first season, I think they were giving away free services to Paint the Stars. Now, with limited opportunity, he has managed to sire a few winners, but I'll be very anxious to see if this one can do anything. Strip the Moon. Ridden by Greg Hall. Greg is one of Melbourne's strongest jockeys. In fact, his nickname is the Enforcer. And he rode the Sydney mare Joanne, which you saw do battle in the Newmarket handicap earlier on today, live on Wide World of Sports. And Joanne raced well below her best. In fact, it was probably the worst run of her career so far. I'm sure it was her worst run, because she wilted badly over the last 200 and finished well back in the field. But the Newmarket saw Shaftesbury Avenue continue on his winning way, and his prize money is now well and truly up around the $1.5 million mark. $1 million stake earners in Australia today are almost commonplace. Now, these mares are getting in pretty well for the Francis Tressady Stakes as we join the voice of Melbourne racing, Mr. John Russell.
To move in Hot Set. Also likes to bowl along in the races, and they're just about ready to go. Memphis Blues on the inside. Last to go up, extreme outside, is Beau Sin. And we welcome Wide World of Sports taking the second last of the day here at Flemington, the Francis Tressady Stakes. Lights on. They're off to a good start. Memphis Blues, one of the first to jump out. Cara's Magic began very fast. And out quickly also is Love and Run looking for the early lead, and just in behind them is Hot Set, followed by Strip the Mooner. Over on the outside is Jamira. Favoured Sinners in behind them, a bit further back to Bo Cinder, and they were being followed next by Delmatinska, a length back along the inside. Diamond Zephyr in company with another trip, followed closely there by O Deputy. At the head of the others, Thelma Josephine, followed by Miss Noralee and Chiraman last of all. They're racing down towards the 900 metre mark now, and Hot Set takes the lead. About a length and a half clear of Cara's Magic on the inside of Love and Run. Close in behind them, Jamira. Strip the Moon is next around the outside of Memphis Blues, followed by Delmatinska, caught 4 deep, but going forward, favoured Senna. A length and a half, Diamond Zephyr making up good ground with Bosin, followed next then by O Deputy. Another trip behind them as they make the turn, followed by Thelma Josephine, who's well back, straightening up now with about 450 left to go, and Hot Set near the inside is being tackled by Love and Runner. Jamira joining in down the outside, and here comes the Western Australian, Strip the Moon with a good runner. Another trip sneaking up along the inside is finishing on wider on the track. Delmatinska, Diamond Zephyr down the outside. Hot Set tackled now by Strip the Moon the outside, and wider on the track is Diamond Zephyr. It's Hot Set still in front with about 200 to go. Strip the Moon down the outside, Diamond Zephyr out in the centre, but Hot Set is finding plenty, and O Deputy finishing very fast. Hot Set still in front. O Deputy on the outside coming after Hot Set. O Deputy, I reckon's got Hot Set right on the post. Third maybe Memphis Blues ahead of the Diamond Zephyr. Not much between that pair for the minor placing, and they were followed by Bo Cinder, then Strip the Moon, who weakened, followed by Love and Run, Delmatinska, Thelma Josephine, then Cara's Magic, Jamira. Another trip followed next home by Miss Noralee, Chiraman, and one of the last homers, Favoured Sin.
Well, what a week, Reid. The horse we tipped was Strip the Moon. It went up to them going half pace in the yellow colours and then had a sudden attack of no ability. But here, as we picked them up, out in front is Hot Set. She looked home, but the grey right down the outside, O Deputy, ridden by the South Australian jockey R. Jolly. And O Deputy, I think, has collared Hot Set right on the line. If you're on O Deputy, you're going to get odds of round about 10 to 1 or a little more on some of the TABs. A great win for South Australia, and you'll be seeing more such action on the wide world of sport.
Ends for Melbourne Race 7, the Francis Tressady Stakes over 1,400 metres. The correct numbers 12, 6 and 1. A bit of a boil over. First number 12, O Deputy, paying $12.90 and $3.20. Second number 6, Hot Seat, $3.90. And third number 1, Memphis Blues, $3.50.